Good thing to say.
Well,
So much chicken man. There he is. You got him.
I ain't got nothing.
You found the chicken
I
man.
got nothing. Get out of here. Get out of here, dog.
Hey, buddy.
What's your favorite movie?
What's your favorite horror movie,
Is that right?
Sammy?
Come on, buddy.
I like Cujo.
I've told this story before, but my mother's grandmother, she was in a theater and saw, I think it's either Bride of Frankenstein or one of the later Frankenstein sequels. And then there's a moment where there's a child in front of a lava pit and the monster lifts the child up. And it's like that for like a fraction of a second, and then turns and puts the child on a ladder, and the child climbs up. It's like, oh! During that moment, my mother's grandmother passed out in the theater because of the drama.
Oh my God.
Collapsed in the aisles.
All right.
And I saw it, and it's half a second. It's like half a second.
Did you also pass out? Is it like a
I
curse
did.
against the Willems family?
Yeah. I had to rewind it to make sure that was the moment.
I'm still not sure if you know how everyone tells that story about the train coming towards the camera and everyone freaked out. I still don't know if that's true or not.
One guy did it, and everyone freaked out.
I'm
I
going to
wanna
tell you
believe
this.
it. I wanna believe
Human
it.
beings are pretty dumb.
Yeah.
They're pretty dumb. I believe that a handful of great people rise up and then drag everyone else, all of the rest of humanity with them.
Sure.
But if you ever go to a parking lot and look at what is parked in compact spaces, you can see right there that human beings
That's how
are
you're
garbage.
defining how society's doing.
I think-
is
I mean, it's-
parking.
It's a pretty good indicator.
I took a few photos this weekend. I was at Trader Joe's, and I saw a bunch of shopping carts next to the railing of where you'd return the shopping carts. I said, fuck you. Fuck all of you. They went, good enough.
Yeah. How little can you care?
But is that stupidity or is it laziness?
Yes.
Welcome, everybody, to an extra spooky episode of Funhaus. This week's episode is brought to us by Mack Weldon. So thanks for sponsoring the show, Mack Weldon. I'll talk a little bit more about them later. But I'd like to first introduce my guests. Who's here today? Who's here? That's Adam.
Sounding off. Adam, horror expert number 1.
James, horror expert number 2.
Alana, horror expert number 3. We didn't plan this.
I'm Daniel, horror expert, also number 1.
We don't plan anything.
It also sounded like you said horror expert.
Uh-oh.
What did you say?
Yeah.
Oh.
What are you here to talk
What do you
about?
think
Here,
we're talking about?
can I get this comment out of the way so you don't have to reply to it in text form? But Dan, it's only September. Why are we doing horror films?
Oh, well, I think it's good to get jazzed about the month of October and horror movies kind of as it gets going. This will air just a day or two before October.
Exactly.
So I like to get in the mood for Halloween during October. There's also a lot of cool movies coming out that we might review. So I figured, whoa, my
Wait,
God.
isn't one of them Venom?
Holy shit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be scary.
If people are going to start celebrating Christmas in like July,
Yeah.
you should be able to start celebrating Halloween in September.
I'll tell you what, I was in Japan 2 weeks ago. Halloween shit everywhere. They go hard.
Yeah,
like more than the
they do
US,
everything
which I would
right.
not have expected.
When I went years ago, our hotel was Hotel Transylvania themed. Like in early October. It's crazy.
That's cool.
They got it right over there.
Yeah.
Those smart Japanese people's.
The irony of that, though, is that Hotel Transylvania doesn't take place during Halloween, to the best of my knowledge.
I've never seen it, so I don't
believe
know.
it takes place away from Halloween because that's when they don't have to be spooky, so they go on vacation.
Why do
I'd
they
like
go
to
on the
start talking
cruise?
about my favorite horror film,
right.
Hotel Transylvania.
The third one where they go on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to get going?
You want me to get going?
Take it away.
No,
James
actually,
Wells.
no.
You
I
should
want
save
Adam
mine.
to start.
Yeah.
Want me to start?
I want Adam to
Well,
start.
because we decided when we talked about this, I didn't want to do
Glad someone's talking about this film.
I didn't want to do a specific Halloween horror movie. Also, get this out of the way. I have a different definition for, I guess, horror and scary. I feel like most movies coming out today are scary movies. Horror movies, I feel like, are something that's a bit more mentally disturbing.
Like a sense of dread.
That's what I consider horror. So the last great horror film I recall seeing was It Follows, which came out 2015, I believe. Am I right, Dan? Do you know? Who
yeah,
knows?
well,
sounds right.
about right.
All right. Either way.
Does it matter?
Shake
Not-
the mouse.
Not
Couple years ago.
Shake the mouse. it'll
Not
say.
too long ago.
No, it doesn't.
So, sorry about that. It Follows is one of those movies where it hits those three notes that I think does things really well. It builds up. It doesn't really show you the monster, and it keeps you asking questions. The monster that they show it could be anybody, but it also is formless, which I really liked about it. And then they did another thing that horror does really well is that it is a parallel for something else. It is either it's a metaphor or it's trying to make a statement about something. This one being basically an STD about unprotected sex and how that could lead to your death. That's sort of like that's sort of the undertones that it has. But I've just felt like
I don't think it's preachy though. It's not like being practice safe sex.
Not at all. But I think it uses that as an analog. Yeah. And it's like, well, what if sex could kill you? And it does that in such a smart way that it doesn't necessarily. I feel like when you do a scary or a modern scary movie, the movies rely too much on jump scares, and there's no build up. It's just a lot of loud noises, things go bang, and you jump. I really like these movies with an overwhelming sense of dread, especially this when you. I guess for those who don't know what the movie is, there is a disease or a curse that gets passed on based on the last person you had sex with. If they have this curse, and this thing will follow you until it kills you.
Well, so there's a line of people, right?
Yeah.
The whole idea is that it will track. There's basically a list, and once you have sex, now your name has been added to the list. Mm-hmm. But you're now the person who gave it to you is now at least one step higher on the list.
Yeah. So the thing tries to kill everyone, and like once it could get back to you in theory.
So it's like a pyramid scheme, kind of.
It's like
you're trying to spread it down.
Yeah, sort of. And they try to run away from it, but you can't. And the thing that I find that It Follows does exceptionally well is that it makes any human scary. It just makes someone casually walking past a threat, and it basically means that there is no sense of comfort at any point in the film because the thing that's threatening just looks like anything else.
Mm-hmm. The last movie that had this same sort of impact was a long time ago. It was a Denzel Washington film called Fallen.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not exactly a horror film, but it's essentially the devil is in someone's body. He is killed, but he can move by being touched by anybody. And so he's just being passed around by anybody. And I like that clever use of the supernatural where it could be anybody, it could be anything. And this my only issue with It Follows is that it creates rules and then it tries to kind of explain the rules, but then not really. So
I thought the bit with the pool was just kind of dumb. It's like a video game boss fight.
Yeah, the ending leaves something to be desired, but I'm trying to judge the movie as a whole, and I feel like 2/3 of this movie are really well done, and I can forgive the ending because of just sort of how frightening the whole thing felt. Also, I knew nothing about this movie going in. I believe I took Blaine, actually, to go see it. He was in town. I was like, hey, this movie looks cool. Let's go watch it. And those are typically the most scary, the scariest films for me are ones I know nothing about.
Yeah.
The last one before that was The Ring.
Ugh.
Went in blind, had no idea what was going on, and those are the best films. So this is a tough one, especially if you haven't seen the movie and you feel like this is a recommendation because now you know so much about it. You're going to have some sort of expectation.
I think it's still good, though, because it does give you that sense of dread that we couldn't explain properly in words. And I just love this kind of stuff where you're like, that could just be a lady walking. Is it? Don't know, because they don't
so
run
you don't
or
know
anything.
if she's hallucinating or not.
I was saying that's also the fun part about this movie is they throw in the curveball that only you can see the thing.
I forgot about
that.
Yeah.
So no one else sees anything, so no one else acknowledges it. So like once everyone's on her side, it's a matter of figuring out how to deal with those new rules and stuff. I think kind of to Adam's point though, a lot of great horror movies don't have an amazing third act.
Yeah.
Like
it's kind of inevitable.
It's tough
usually,
because
right?
concept is such a big part of it.
Right.
Like what's the premise, and then what's the excitement of the premise, and then resolving the premise is never as good as anything else. So so this stuff is
that looks a little goofy.
Yeah.
It has some goofy moments when
But it's a thing where you're like, oh, it's just a person on the beach, and then you're like, oh wait, it's not. Like it's whatever this monster is. And I think this also gives you an interesting kind of moral dilemma. It's like, okay, so if you have something and you know that if you have sex with someone, it will try to kill them, do you still do it? Because the alternative is that it kills you and then it just kills the person before you. And I think that she got sexually assaulted, so for her it's like, well,
No, she didn't get sexually assaulted.
Didn't he kind of knock her out?
No. He has sex with her, and then he ties her up.
He ties her up. You're right.
So
it's consensual
he needs
sex.
to show her.
Because he feels real bad about it.
Yeah.
So he made the choice to do it. Then he ties her up and we shouldn't talk about that because that's the thing that you can see.
They do some interesting stuff with the rules that they created in this world, where one of the kids goes he finds a hooker, and then she's obviously going to sleep with a bunch of people. So it's like, oh, this is an interesting way of getting around it, but it doesn't last very long, and so it does do those pretty smart things where it asks those sort of questions. But the other thing I liked about this movie was it felt somewhat timeless. It's unclear whether it takes place in the past or the future.
Which is a really interesting thing about it, because sometimes there's this old tech, she has a pager, but then there's a modern TV. It's very odd.
There is a future phone in this too. They talk to each other through
a clamshell
hologram phones at one point in the movie, and it's never acknowledged. And then there's this, which is present day, but then they're let's walk to the other side of town, and it looks like Detroit, burnt out post-apocalypse kind of thing.
I imagine it's inconsistent to make you feel unsettled. I imagine you can't figure out where it's set, and I think this is from right at the start of the movie.
Yeah,
and that shot's
it has
really
a very
cool.
strong opening, and it felt like it just kind of grabs you right away. This is, I think, the only thing I knew about it was I think someone posted this clip. I didn't know what it was from, and they're just I think someone thought it was a short film or something.
Oh,
and it kind of grabs your attention immediately.
Also, Adam, I imagine you like the soundtrack.
Soundtrack's great.
It's really good.
I'm a sucker for 80s synth wave, basically everything that happened after Drive.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a sucker for those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But if I feel like if you need a movie that's going to get you in the mood for Halloween or kind of get you into the spooky 30 days that you're about to have, this is a good starting point.
And get you out of the mood for sex.
Don't have sex.
The
Otherwise, the big scary thing will come after you. Apparently, Quentin Tarantino didn't love this film. And then the director got mad at him for not loving it. I feel like if you don't like it, that's totally fine. It's just, this is the sort of film that speaks to me. So if you're the type of person who's just sick of jump scares, which this movie has some of, but I feel like they earned them.
Yeah.
And they're not as jumpy as a Conjuring or a Nun. Not that I saw The Nun, but a movie.
I heard it's terrible.
But you think you know what it is.
Right. I feel like I've seen that movie a million times. It's safe horror. It feels like you're going into a haunted house. You know you're going to be okay.
So do they try and explain the origin of the curse?
No.
Not really.
Good. That sounds nice.
Yeah. I feel like the less you know, the better, typically in a film like this. And I don't want to give away too much in case anyone listening or watching right now has not seen It Follows, but a good idea if this piqued your interest, much like the plot of the film, trick a friend into watching it with you. If they know nothing about it, crowd around, put your phones down, and enjoy a fun little scary movie for the evening, and then good luck sleeping for the next 2 days.
Well, It Follows. Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome, Dan.
for presenting Show and Tell.
Or am I, Adam?
Uh-oh.
Am I just going to attack
Is
you
this a horror movie?
because you had sex? Stupid kids. Use a condom. What happens if you use a condom?
Uh-oh.
I think it still works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I actually don't know.
These are rules I don't want to know.
We'll find out in It Follows too.
They better. No, it follows. It's
It
following.
follows.
Follows.
Still follows.
Nah,
It follows $. It's follows.
Oh yeah, that's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
All right.
She got her leg bent back.
So, Alana,
Yeah.
what did you bring for us to see today?
I'm going with Hereditary, which
Ooh.
I chose for very similar reasons as Adam choosing It Follows, is that it's a movie that builds up a sense of dread really, really well. Full disclosure, the last, I want to say, quarter of the movie just gets batshit insane, not necessarily good, but leading up to that point, it's a movie that is effectively a family drama where you aren't sure if something is wrong, you suspect that it probably is, and everything is just very fucking uncomfortable. Like, a lot of really oppressive framing is the thing that I think makes that you could have this movie be a family comedy, but the way that shots are framed, the way the sound design works, is that's the reason, until things actually get scary, that this movie is unsettling. It's just the way it's shot. A lot of cool tones, et cetera, and you start seeing sort of subliminal messaging. But the thing that I really love about this movie is this 10-minute chunk that I won't spoil, but it's like a 10-minute period of time that I think could be one of the best short horror films ever made. Even if you took that chunk out and you hadn't seen the rest of the film, you would still know what it was. And it's sort of like
Is you talking about the ending?
No.
You're talking about the car?
Talking about the
Yes.
creepy young old lady.
And I won't say exactly what happens, but it's ultimately just like something is building up and you don't know what's building up and you just suspect that it is. And it just means that you're paying a lot of attention to what's happening. And something happens and it gives you this climax, but it doesn't satisfy you with it when so many horror movies will be like, here's the gore, sit on it for 15 seconds. It doesn't do that. It's like, oh, something terrible has happened to someone. Let's drag that shit out as long as we possibly can. And it doesn't even show the thing that happens. It shows everyone's reaction to it. And, there's like people just freaking out. It's hard to explain without saying what it is, but I don't want to.
We did a previous Funhaus on this movie in its entirety, and that has full spoilers and stuff.
So I probably can just spoil it?
If you give them the warning, because we've already done it, but it might not be the same viewers, watchers, listeners, all that fun stuff. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, if the goal of this podcast is to get people to check out things, then you probably shouldn't say what it is. I think you're doing a great job explaining it without giving it all away, because honestly, it's the dread, like you said, that makes this movie so compelling. Honestly, the trailer for it doesn't do it justice because
it's also misleading.
It sets it up to be a pretty traditional horror movie, but what you just feel uncomfortable for most of it before any of the real horror happens, and that's the best thing about this movie.
I think the first thing that happens that's scary, that's early, is just like you see a ghost effectively, but it's like you don't know if she's actually seeing that or if she's hallucinating.
I only saw the movie once. There is something there, right? Or is it just a trickery?
No idea.
With the lighting.
So like that. Well, no. There's definitely like her mother is in the room, but you don't know if it's like in theory it's probably not. Like she's just seeing her there, and she's not actually there, and she's gone through all of this insane dread, and you hear about a lot of family issues that the mother has dealt with, and a lot of the film is like, okay, is it going to turn out that this woman has some kind of mental illness? She's schizophrenic, none of this is real, and she's putting her family through all this terrible shit, or is something actually happening? And it does a very good job of keeping you guessing.
This kid is terrifying, by the way.
Yeah,
I haven't seen this movie,
spooky.
but she scares
This is
the
great
shit out of
casting.
me.
Yeah, kind of to what Adam was saying, one of his favorite things about It Follows is that it was like a metaphor for something else. Mental illness is like this.
Yeah.
It's like it's the curse your family passes down.
Yeah.
All you want to do is live a normal life, but your great-great-grandfather had schizophrenia, and now you have to worry about how that's going to affect your kids. And
It's kind of like the Babadook. It's a similar thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like depression.
Yeah, I think those are always the best horror movies too. But then this is done with such a light touch. There's certain if you're watching the footage, the B-roll along with us, there's just a really creepy guy who's smiling
At a funeral?
I didn't notice that the first time I'd seen it. And then I saw it again and was like, oh, Jesus Christ. And then there's so much layered in this film.
It's there, but then it's not, you don't think anything of it. And it isn't until it's important, if it becomes important later on in the movie, that you're like, oh, right, there was a guy at a funeral smiling earlier.
There is a lot of stuff in this movie that is just very threaded through and pays off. And a lot of the stuff that's footage in this doesn't happen as well. Like it's someone dreaming or, it's a lot of it's not real. And I like that it constantly makes you second guess that. But then some of the things that I find really horrific in it that aren't necessarily traditionally scary is there's, moments where this family's like been through something awful, someone died, and they're all pretty fucked up about it, and they just say awful shit to each other. They're just like, they're all sitting around a table, and the mother says something like, I wish you were never born, or something like that. And the way that they all react to that, it doesn't cut away, it doesn't cut to someone yelling, it just fucking sits there at that table with you, and you just have to watch them tear each other apart. And it's just like, not scary, but just, oh, this is awful.
Very uncomfortable.
It feels like any other movie would have taken that moment, and then that would have been like the breaking point.
Right.
Like, this is, and she feels terrible,
Yeah.
or whatever. But then she'll go like, I'm serious, and you're like people will dig their heels in, and then they'll be like, what? And then they'll end the night, and it's like, oh, imagine. I always try and think about like if you get into an argument with someone, like a friend or a family member, it's
Fix
like
it before you go to sleep.
Fix it before you go to sleep. And this movie's like, let's make it worse, and then try and go to sleep and see how you sleep.
Fuck, does it get worse?
I have to say though, got some flaccid dong in this movie.
Oh, you're right, there is.
So we found our flaccid dong.
Yes, finally.
When was the flaccid dong?
Oh, like there's like a lot.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
I only saw it the one time. I do want to see it again now. It is sort of
because you had this flaccid dick.
now
I want to watch it again.
I have a hunger for some dong. It's one of those movies. What I really like about it was what you're talking about a lot, where there's a lot of just weird stuff, and then it all makes sense after you see it. So there's not a lot of movies that I feel like, I'm trying to think of the last one where I really went back and was like, oh, wow. I was like, maybe The Matrix, where I was like, once you understand what this thing is, you go back and watch and go, oh, God, this all makes so much more sense now.
I did that with Get Out as well, because that's a similar thing, where it's like something suspicious is happening, but I don't know what it is. And then you watch it again, and you're like, shit.
It's obvious.
This one, just going back and watching some of the director's short films that he did on Vimeo. And he has a very twisted sense of what scary is, and I like that about him. There's a really good one about a son and a father, and that's really it. And he does another one where it's just a guy in his apartment, and that's
a lot of what this movie is just family being mad at each other at a dinner table. Like it really is. But it escalates, and it's fucking smart.
It's also uncomfortable,
incredibly uncomfortable.
So those moments, those really awkward silent dinners, are something I think we've all had before, or where there's just tension and you felt that. And that was my overall takeaway, was the movie can have some supernatural moments, but it felt somewhat grounded and real. And there's some really good performances. There's some weaker ones here and there, a little cartoonish, but overall, I don't know, it felt something that could be real.
It's worth noting too that Elise loves horror movies. She watches every single horror movie she can get her hands on. It's just like one of the things she loves, spooking herself and watching as much as she can. She loves Hereditary.
Horror is like my favorite genre of film.
Yeah.
Horror thriller, and I adored it. But at the same time, it's a movie that I wouldn't recommend to literally anyone, because watching it is an awful experience. Like, it's terrible to watch, but it's so well made.
I mean, Elise saw this movie twice within a week.
My goodness.
So she went and saw it, and then we were out, and she was like, hey, it's playing nearby. You want to go? And I was like, no. And then Josh Flanagan was like, I'll go. So then I went home.
Blaine hated it, but he was hungover and then saw this movie, and he was like, I didn't necessarily think it was bad. I just fucking hated watching it. Like, totally, I get it.
His senses are all messed up. Yeah, I liken it to the dog being killed in John Wick. Get through that part, and it's worth it. Like, it's trial by fire. Once you get through it, after it's done, you'll be able to have a great discussion with whoever you watched it with.
Yeah, but I feel like this whole movie is the dog being killed over and over.
Yeah, it's one giant dog murder. Yeah. And it's horrible, and it hurts. But I feel like when you come out the other side, you feel like you had a really good meal.
Yeah.
Like your brain actually was entertained. You felt something. You didn't feel like you were on set on the movie where you can see a guy with a gel light moving something around. Like, you actually felt like you experienced something, which I think is what a good film should be.
Well, that's something great about horror films that I don't think many other genres do, is that they like affect your body. You know, like they raise your blood pressure. They get you intense and excited and off-put. Like, you'll turn away. There's not really
It's the kind of movie where you're watching it and you're just like tense the whole time.
It affects you in a way, right?
It also has some really spooky shit. Like, the end gets a little bit jump scary, but in a way that's like, some of it is genuinely fucking scary.
Yeah.
Like, people just like looking in the background and just sitting there, and then they move, and it's just like, dear God.
I definitely think this movie is for people that appreciate the genre, but are also looking for something different.
Yeah.
It's like, most horror movies are a roller coaster ride. You get on the ride and you come around, and then you're like, wow, that was fun, especially the part when I went down fast. But this is, you get on the ride, the thing locks in, you go straight out of the station, and then it just puts you in a room where heaters turn on, and it starts to vibrate, and then you're in that for 2.5 hours, and then you back out of the heat room, and they go, well, did you enjoy the ride? And you're like, not a traditional roller coaster by any means.
You got a good sweat out of it.
God, it's really, I'm really excited to see what this director goes on to do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He said there's a cut of this movie that is even longer, that is just more family drama.
God damn it.
Yeah.
I think it was a perfect cut.
Yeah.
I think so too.
For what they got. And I love it because it made you ask all the right questions, and there was enough there to satisfy you. I don't think it tried to get too crazy. It wasn't like a John Carpenter like Mouth of Madness where you're like, what the fuck? How?
It's also worth noting that this movie's ending was reshot because they screened it for a lot of people, and people like hated it. But it's funny to think about the ending and think like, There. That's the punctuation mark we needed.
The ending's fucking weird, but there's also a change in the ending that unfortunately makes other shit that happened not make sense. The X's. I don't know. I can't really.
We'll talk about it after.
Yeah, there's a part that it like makes.
curious.
There's like a thing in the film that you're like, that never paid off, and it's because they changed the ending because people were like, that was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Oh,
but in a
wow.
way that they were like horrified. At the end of this movie, I don't like. I don't think.
Oh man, I loved it.
I don't know. It's bonkers.
That's one of the best things
It
about it.
gets real
I think.
weird.
I think this is also coming on the heels of kind of a. It Follows is, I say, the more mainstream version of this horror type genre.
Okay.
This and like The Witch
Yeah.
and like The Ritual are like other horror movies that have
The
come out.
Invitation.
The
don't know
Invitation.
I'm not sure what that
I think
one
it's
is.
called The Invitation. It's like it's a horror movie where just a bunch of people get invited to a party and then they realize they're all locked in the house.
Oh.
Oh yeah,
I think it's called The
Yeah.
Invitation.
That sounds
Yeah.
fun.
It's a similar kind of thing.
Yes, I think I have seen that. That one's yeah. These are all like these weird things. These are definitely
Babadook.
Yeah, like
Babadook is like
it's good in its premise, but then it
Yeah.
becomes a pretty traditional horror movie.
It's also a little bit low budget. But
This-
it was the most
There's-
low budget out
Yeah.
of all of them.
yeah.
yeah,
Was
I
The
see- oh, yeah.
Ritual good?
I haven't
The
seen it.
Ritual is good.
Okay,
Yes,
that is on my list.
It's also weird. It's like these movies are like, you know what's going to make people feel uncomfortable? Weirdness. And they do weirdness really, really well. But those are all like kind of in the same line, I feel.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
The Invitation is like same genre in that it's like everything is about uncomfortable dread. I feel like The Invitation's not quite as good, but
this guy feels. If you identify
Story,
with this
though.
dude, you feel like such an asshole. That
Yeah.
whole movie.
I'm gonna ask you, Dan, actually, if you can stop playing it because
Yeah, yeah.
I'm actually gonna watch it.
Oh, sorry.
yeah, you should.
I'm gonna watch it in
back
October,
back to going to movies.
and I wanna know less about this movie. I'm adding that to my list, my queue.
on the queue.
I'm
Back
like I
to
kind
this
of want
shit.
to apologize because I saw it not knowing it was even a horror movie, and you start watching it, you'd have no idea, and then I was like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah.
They showed some trailers, and I thought we can stop talking about Hereditary as soon as you need to, Dan. But
I'm in no hurry.
I think we talked about this in the podcast. Movies today, I think, have a hard time because they have to sell themselves, right? But they can't give everything away, especially when people seeing your movie is kind of hinges on you not knowing the plot.
Well,
And it's like they almost shot the movie in a way where they would sort of misdirect people so that you would think it's a different type of movie.
For sure.
Yeah, because I felt misdirected and I felt good about it because they actually saved a lot of stuff.
Well,
Well,
the end
I
of
think
the-
that's a smart marketing campaign. A lot of times, whoever's cutting a trailer, their prerogative is to get people to go to a movie. They don't give two shits about spoiling the movie. Of
course.
So they'll put
Yeah.
everything in there to get you to go because that is their job.
Well, that's why Marvel literally shoots things for the trailers that
Yeah.
aren't in the movies. Like they actively do that.
and I think that's genius.
We had that issue just recently. We did the Arizona Circle show. We put out a standalone skit, which is like the Ghoul Bursters bit, and we were debating about the thumbnail. And they were like, "Well, what do we do?" Because we have
oh
to.
yeah, you kind
like,
of give away the.
Do we show a family lighting a candle? No one's gonna click that. But then people are like, "You spoiled the video." It's like because the thumbnail shows the Ghoul Burster. We're like, "Yeah, but that's probably why you clicked it." So. Yeah, that's
It's probably harder than it seems, and we all criticize trailers, and it's like it's probably really fucking hard to do that.
Oh, no,
And it goes
absolutely.
through hundreds of revisions.
when we saw that first Infinity War trailer, and you see Hulk
yeah,
running, and then Hulk's on the movie, and people are like, "Why there no Hulk? Why did you change?" It's like
Mine the Hulk.
because they're smart enough now that they know they have to put in things to misdirect
Yeah.
you.
Well, and that's loyalty to the audience. I think that doing that misdirection and not just giving away the money shots.
The thing Hereditary does differently, and we might have already touched on this a little bit, but the entire fucking first third of the movie is
you.
misdirection.
Oh wow!
Classic dick.
God
You gotta
damn
get rid of
it.
that.
I was wondering.
It's dark enough. It should
I
be
was like,
fine.
this is definitely not supposed to be posted online.
Yeah,
Like from my angle, I didn't see it. I just saw.
it might have
blur.
been shadowy enough that we
he's
can get away
probably
with
just,
it.
He's probably just not well hung. Sorry.
Sick burn.
Sorry, man.
Why are you apologizing to me? It's not
I'm
like
just letting you know.
Michael
That wasn't you,
Fassbender was
Adam?
like, he's
Not
like,
well hung. I'm apologizing to the guy, you know.
Well,
That's the way it goes.
Anyway, that's a decent transition. We could have put some Mack Weldons on that guy and avoided having to blur that.
Nice.
Our sponsor this week is Mack Weldon.
Hey.
Mack Weldon is better than whatever you are wearing. Mack Weldon believes in smart design, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. Just takes a few clicks to treat yourself, and you'll feel like a whole new person with Mack Weldon. They are the most comfortable socks, shirts, underwear, hoodies, and sweatpants you ever wear. I think everyone in this room has Mack Weldon and loves and swears by it. They even have a silver line that eliminates odor naturally. It's naturally antimicrobial.
You don't have to wash them; they won't stink.
You don't have to wash them.
Ever.
You can go see a horror movie. You can crap your pants. No one will know.
No one will ever know.
Probably shouldn't.
It should be noted that you will smell like shit.
But the underwear themselves
underwear
won't.
Oh, it's an important distinction.
That is the magic of the silver line of underwear. Mack Weldon does want you to be comfortable. So if you don't like your first pair, you can keep it. They will refund you all your money, no questions asked. So there's really nothing to lose. Just go out, give it a shot. It takes a few clicks. Not only does Mack Weldon's underwear, socks, and shirts look good, they perform well too. It's good for everything. For hanging out in an office, recording a podcast, going to work, going out on a date, going to horror movies. Anywhere and everywhere is ready for Mack Weldon. So go to MackWeldon.com and get 20% off using the promo code FILM. That's MackWeldon.com. Use the promo code FILM and you'll get 20% off your first order. So thank you, Mack Weldon, for sponsoring this week's podcast.
Keep your Mack Weldons on. You don't have to worry about it. Follows.
So
if you never take them off, it's a good point.
Listen, kids. Listen to me. I'm cool.
I am going to leave James for last because I think he's going to change the tone a little bit on us.
Because it's going to get real scary.
But I watched Mandy recently and fucking loved this movie.
Okay.
And I know it is definitely not for everybody, and I totally get that.
I don't know anything about it.
You don't have to know a lot about it,
I
honestly.
think Mandy only exists because of the success of movies like The Witch and Hereditary.
Oh, great.
Absolutely.
It's definitely an extension of this subgenre of dread horror something. I don't know.
Yeah. So Nick Cage plays this logger named Red who kind of lives way out in the woods with his lady Mandy. And they kind of have a sweet, simple, quiet life until this cult leader guy kind of becomes obsessed with Mandy and starts hatching schemes to get her and uses his crazy, creepy cult guys.
Well, he uses Legion of Doom.
Well, yeah, and so they summon this evil biker gang, demon bikers.
Rad.
I mean, this is fucking cool.
I started it. I started it last night. I got about 30 minutes in. I was just tired.
Well, it is not the movie to start at midnight or
that was a
11
bad
o'clock
idea.
or whatever.
Yeah.
It is super slow, especially the first half.
Yeah.
You know, it takes the time to establish the relationship between Red and Mandy.
I liked
before getting to this crazy demon biker shit.
Didn't get this far.
Okay.
Because I've seen the trailer. I knew where it was going, and I'm like, I know I shouldn't watch movies like this, and I was like, I'm just gonna stop because I want to be awake for this. So I might just start it again.
Well, and it'll do stuff like linger on. This shot, it kind of morphs between Mandy and the cult leader's face. This is like 5 minutes of the movie with droning synth music.
I saw, what's the director's name?
Panos Cosmatos.
Okay, so first of all, no one should ever be named Panos unless you're in a Scott Gardner skit or something like that. But that was like the Lords of Synth or whatever, that thing. It's such a jokey name. But I saw his last film, Beyond the Black Rainbow.
And had a lot of great things to say about it.
So that shot you were talking about, that was the entire movie. It was like a really long music video that goes nowhere. So the fact that this movie has any sort of plot, I'm already in.
Well, so, and that's, I think, the great thing about it. It has a very simple plot. It's a revenge movie. So it can take the time to be drony and hang on someone's face with weird colors for a few minutes. And you don't lose the story because you know Nick Cage is coming to kill some dudes. But yeah, I think...
So what differentiates it from being an action movie?
The fucking demon bikers, I guess.
It's the same dread that is in Hereditary.
Okay.
Like, I didn't... We were going to do a film on this, a Funhaus on this, so I started watching it and got about halfway through, and I was like, okay, I got to stop. Because, again, it was getting late. And I hadn't watched any of the trailers. I hadn't asked anyone anything about what it was about. I hadn't even seen the image of Nicolas Cage because, well, I'll tell you guys afterwards. But there was a reason that I had no idea. And so I just started it, and that was a bad move.
Yeah.
This is a movie. This is a movie that you need to watch the trailer for, so you know what you're sitting through.
It does take a good 40 minutes to set up the relationship. Like, it is long shots of them just sitting in their home at night, she'll be like reading a fantasy novel to him, or like talking about this book that she read about the stars and astrology and the planet Mars. Like it establishes her as like this kind of cool metal nerd, and I guess makes the end pay off because you like Mandy so much. And maybe that's because you stare at her face for 5 minutes at a time. But the music is rad too. What's this guy's name? Johan
Johansson. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. He died in February, unfortunately, and apparently had an unused score for Blade Runner 2049.
They ended up going with Hans Zimmer, which is sad.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that. But the music carries you through it, like crazy visuals. It's definitely something. The dude Panos has got to be some sort of druggie because it is a super trippy psychedelic
is like
film.
An Italian director.
He directed
like
Cobra.
Tombstone, Cobra, Rambo, First Blood Part 2.
Is it cheesy?
This movie, it's got the right amount of cheese. Like there is some. That's Panos, by the way. He's like he's like a trucker.
Well, it's weird. Some of the movie feels like it feels the same as a film student finding out that there's filters built into Final Cut Pro. Like, oh my God, you're telling me I can drop this thing on and it's going to make their eyes pop or whatever?
But I've seen that, and I've seen it done so poorly in other movies and films. And there's a whole wave of this in the early 2000s. You can see it used well in some movies like Saving Private Ryan, and then overused in other movies. You're like, please stop blowing out the colors because you found the filter option in Final Cut.
No, that is this whole movie. Like half of it is red like this.
But I feel like
I was going to ask if it's actually
it's
red.
Very, very red.
But I feel like that's cinematography. Like it was shot this way because they knew they were going to change the colors like that. And that to me actually, I feel like there's so many shots in here that feel so otherworldly.
Yes.
And
that was only the first half hour where like that you see some of it in the trailer, but there's just like some of these shots of like the universe basically, or like a galaxy above this like this log house or whatever, and it's like it feels like they actually know what they're doing from a visual perspective.
They absolutely did, and that's kind of what elevates it from a normal, maybe even a crummy horror movie into something that I think is really badass, and that Panos knows what he's doing with those long shots, with the long droning music. It just kind of lures you into this weird universe. There's also kind of weird animated dream sequences that kind of look like the heavy metal movie from the 80s.
Cool.
See, there's
That's
just
what
really
makes me
rad
think
moments.
cheesy. Is it like this dude who's just like, I'm gonna save my chick?
But it's Nick Cage, so you can like even if it's cheesy and over the top, you're with him.
Like, why did he have to make that?
It's
cool.
also a little trip. Like there's definitely like. I don't want to spill too much, but there's something that's either magic or drugs, and it just goes to a different place at that point. Halfway through, something might happen to Mandy, and Nick Cage needs revenge, and it just kind of snaps into this just constant barrage of things that are hard to watch, honestly.
But that's why I think knowing what you're heading towards is important with a movie like this.
Yes. It's so you're willing to sit through the 40 minutes.
Because if you're just watching it, you can sit there and think, oh, you just made the whole fucking thing red. But if it's building towards something, if there's a purpose, which you don't know until the movie's over, or until you see a trailer that obviously indicates that there's skill behind it or there's intention, there's a lot of shitty movies out there that just do that.
Yeah.
We've watched them. And so that's why I think this movie's important. I was planning on finishing it. It was just like 12:30 at night, and I was like, this guy's monologue is not ending. And so it's probably for the best that I call it here.
The guy who plays the cult leader, I thought did from the 10 minutes I saw him of that long shot of him laying on a bed talking to his cult members, I thought was well done.
Yeah.
You had to establish that he's a cult leader.
Refineries over Jupiter.
But so there's so much rad, like heavy metal, kind of like dark fantasy influence. There's several title cards like this. This happens about halfway through the movie, but there's several other ones that kind of...
Wait, those are in the movie?
Yeah, they're these really rad title cards. They look like a prog rock cover.
Instead of just saying
cover.
like 3 days later or whatever, it'll be like
Children
Somerville Farms, and it'll like glimmer, or it'll be like
the covers of
it's
Shadow Mountain.
the Lucasfilm logo every single time with the sparkles on it, but then in a different way. And
Interesting.
It is very much a movie that's style over substance, and I think I loved the style so much that it didn't bother me that it's just kind of... It is a normal revenge film, like underneath all of that. But there's a fucking chainsaw fight.
It's like if Alan Wake were metal.
Yeah.
Except more people will see this.
Maybe.
Sorry, Alan Wake. No one played it.
R.I.P., buddy.
I mean,
I played it.
the visuals, it looks like, Geiger developed these like leather metal clothes back in the 80s.
It's one of those movies where you're like, all right, I watched the whole thing. Now I'm going to read the wiki to see what it was about. Like
I said, I suffered through his other film, maybe his first film, Beyond the Black Rainbow, and I couldn't tell you what the story was.
Can you pull up a trailer for that?
Sure. But the song while he's making this axe, by the way, was it called like Creating the Beast or something?
Is it metal?
Forging the Beast. It's so rad. It's so rad. I'm gonna actually probably buy
It's a cool axe.
soundtrack.
I'm just like, but why?
I mean, it's over the top and stupid.
I remember years ago, I went to, back when our friend Brett Hundley was living with a couple other guys from Machinima, and they had a Halloween party that we went to one year, but it was cult themed, which is super fun. So everything was like very Jonestown. It was all very spooky. They were playing like Holy Mountain in the background, which is like a perfect.
That's what this reminds me of.
Yeah, it's a perfect like put it in the background. It doesn't need sound. It looks creepy. That's what Beyond the Black Rainbow is, where it is it's a movie you can watch in the background. You don't need to know what it's about, and you'll just go, oh, that's creepy. That's good for this cult party I went to, and then be done with your life.
It's like what a club would play on Halloween night on their monitors.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want this director, Panos, to go on to make something pretty cool. Like, I want the same thing.
Marvel movie.
Yeah, should make a Silver Surfer.
I keep trying to work in a way that I can be like, and he snaps his fingers and gets rid of 50% of his films, but I couldn't find a way to put that in there.
It's sort of like it's thinking like a young, Quentin Tarantino. Where you're like, imagine what he would do with a budget, going from like Reservoir Dogs to Pulp Fiction, which still wasn't even a huge budget, but then even like Inglourious Bastards, where it's like, you know what, his convictions and his themes are still strong regardless of the budget, and that's awesome. Panos right now is just making VJ clips for DJs on like Halloween night, and I want something like him. I want him to do something really cool, but I hope he doesn't get tied down to the substance.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, the style.
So you think he can make something really cool?
You think some producers or studio heads need to rein in the weirdness a little bit?
I wonder if he were to adapt some sort of like Stephen King or H.P. Lovecraft book or something in his own way, he would be successful.
Him to make something that someone else wrote.
Like when David Lynch made Dune.
I don't know.
And it was awesome.
I'll let him make weird little movies. Who knows?
I think you need these people.
Oh, this is a trailer. Yeah, I have no fucking idea what's happening.
You need these types of filmmakers to push things forward, because this is for people who are bored of the same old shit. Yeah. And they will find new pathways, and they'll pioneer into new things that may not be the standard, but can become part of whatever the future standard
That's
is.
how we got It Follows and The Witch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and you get someone like Nick Cage to attach himself to Mandy, which actually brings people to watch it. I'm guessing that's why anyone
Maybe.
would have heard of it.
I would guess that it was probably more of a, wouldn't it be interesting if we cast this character this actor who's not really known for anything good, and then we try and make him in this thing that's complete art.
I mean, that's sort of the George Lucas story. He did THX 1138, which is like
super art film,
very artsy, very. But I mean, Robert Duvall's in it as a young Robert Duvall. But then they went, what if we gave him American Graffiti? You're like, oh, he did a pretty good job. And he's like, I have Star Wars, and he like that's what everyone's banking on. That's what they're hoping. So when Elijah Wood and Nick Cage get behind a movie like this, are like, we're hoping this guy might be the next big thing.
Just make the Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think George Lucas, I'm talking out of my ass, but I think THX 1138 is, I don't think he intended it to be that movie. I think he thought he was making a cool sci-fi action movie with maybe a little bit of like Kubrick kind of vibing in it, but mostly cool action. But then he saw all the footage and he was like, this is slow and boring. So then it became, from that point on, it became psychological or whatever. That's my theory. Having watched that movie like 4 times.
Oh, wow.
You think he worked with what he shot?
It's hard to think. It feels like a student got some money. And
it's a student film more than anything else. Yeah.
Well, there's the student film, and then there's the feature-length adaptation of his student film.
Yeah.
And it's like, you learn nothing. You just had more money to spend.
Just Nick Cage real quick. He goes full Rage Cage at the end where he's like a maniac. But he has a wonderful transformative moment. Just he's in a bathroom by himself and has like a bottle of liquor with him. And I'm not going to say like an Oscar performance, but like it's a really, really well acted scene, and you believe it, and you see him like
looks well
transform. It's over the top in a Nick Cage way, but I don't know. I think he's just fantastic
you can
in this
channel
movie.
him.
I mean, that's the thing. A good
He
director.
calls it surfing. He surfs this weird reality that he's got.
I think a good director knows what the right project is for Nick Cage. The problem was when people were like, he's an action star. And then they just started throwing him in action movies. It's like, no, he's not. He's Nick Cage. You got to find the right beast for him.
It's weird because he had his whole he goes up. He has a few ups and then a lot of downs. It seems to be more downs than ups lately. But he did Adaptation not too long ago, and that's a great film.
It's just so weird. Actually, there's one still that I loved in this photo gallery.
He named his kid Kal-El, so I don't know.
But it's that Vince Neil is at the premiere, and he's not looking very good.
I mean, you just caught him at a bad angle.
Yeah, that's a bad angle.
Come on.
That's the camera was at his toes.
I think he looks great.
Oh yeah, Elijah Wood.
So Elijah Wood was a producer on this film.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will watch it.
I think I will too. Yeah.
worth your
Definitely gonna check
time.
it out. Knowing, because I when I stopped, I went and told Dan the next day. I was like, "Hey, so I didn't finish the movie," and then Dan was like, "You should," and I was like, "Okay, that's all I needed to know."
Right.
I just needed someone to tell me that
How
I
did
should.
you watch it?
You watch the setup. You got to watch the
I
payoff.
think you can rent it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can.
It's
I think
rentable
on
right now.
Google Play and
It's playing in a couple theaters.
It's in some theaters around the country, but not many.
Yeah.
There's a little art house.
There was
theater
one in
town.
LA,
This
but I
dude-
really did want to go to Hollywood.
This fucking dude didn't do anything but stare with his jaw open.
Yeah.
And he's really off-putting.
Yeah.
That's good
Oh,
casting.
what's the name of the fat kid? It's like Gordo or whatever. Chewy. Oh well.
I'll figure it out real quick.
Well, all right.
Maybe not.
You sold me. I will watch it.
Yeah, me too.
I promise you that, Dan. Are you actually looking up?
Someone's name is
it's not
Fuckpig?
Fuck Pig.
I don't think it was fuck pig.
Oh well, we'll have to figure that out another day. James.
Yes.
What did you bring to show and tell?
Who's ready to get scared? I'm bringing Halloween.
Excellent.
Which one?
Yes, these are for Halloween. Yes, these are
No.
for movies.
The Halloween movie. Michael Myers, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh.
Wait,
Only more specifically, Halloween H2O.
wait, what? Really?
And Halloween Resurrection.
Wait,
Hold on.
You
what?
said they kind of go in tandem.
I did a double feature of these two movies this weekend.
Did you really?
I did.
That's cool.
And they're both garbage.
Yes.
They're
I-
really, really bad, but very, very interesting. Watching them gave me a lot of insight into the Halloween franchise as a whole.
But there's a new one coming out too.
There's a new one coming
We
out.
should go see it.
Which is interesting
I think we will.
because the franchise now has, I think, 6 timelines. 5 or 6 different timelines.
yesterday you said it was
the
three.
multiverse.
Yeah, but then I remembered more. So there's the timeline of Halloween 1, 2, then 3 was a complete non sequitur. That's
Yeah.
Season of the Witch. Then it was like 4, 5, 6.
Wait,
right?
so is 3 not canon?
No, 3 is not canon.
Okay.
Which
4,
means
5
it's technically its own timeline, so that's 1.
Okay.
2 is 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then when H2O came out in 98, they retconned 4, 5, 6, and 3, of course.
So
3
they
is just
became
right
extended
out.
universe.
Sure.
And said those didn't happen.
Okay.
It was 1, 2, and now H2O. So that's the
Okay.
third timeline.
Okay.
Okay.
Halloween Resurrection is a direct sequel to H2O, so technically that falls into that same timeline.
Yeah.
When did that come out?
That one came out in 2002, and it stars Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks. She has no lines and just has one scene where she dances to a espresso machine and dies off screen.
She dances to an espresso machine.
There's music playing, and she really wants to dance while making espresso, which conveniently allows her to miss the security camera, which reveals that someone is being murdered that she was supposed to be watching.
Incredible.
And this isn't a cold open kind of thing where, a Drew Barrymore and
Right.
Scream. This is in the whole movie. That she's just there. And
the
then
young Josh Hartnett.
and so that's the other timeline. Then there's the Rob Zombie timeline. He rebooted the franchise in like 2010 or something.
Did he do 2 of them? Or
And he
just
did
one?
Halloween and Halloween 2.
There have
which
been 2 Halloween movies since 2010.
There would have been 2. Yeah, he made 2 of them, I think.
What?
I don't know if it was 2010.
Well,
Whenever
and
Rob
his
Zombie-
was like an origin story.
His
Didn't they go back to
rebooted
his,
everything.
to
Okay.
his
So that's-
childhood?
They did all of them. They did Nightmare on Elm Street. They did Friday the 13th, which your Friday the 13th was good, wasn't it? Or at least
do you
the
mean a
first,
reboot of
first
that?
30 minutes are good?
They're all...
Those
everything
movies-
except for Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not good.
Hills Have Eyes?
I mean, I don't...
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was Michael Bay's company, Platinum Dudes, did a remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre that is good with Jessica Biel. It's genuinely good. And then they were like, let's do them all. And then they all almost get good and then miss the mark at some point.
Okay.
But anyway, I don't know if that was this. I think Rob Zombie
just-
was just like, I think it was Dimension Films or something was like, let's let Rob Zombie make it.
There was just a tsunami of... Was it
Yes.
a hot horror movie in the 80s? Do you remember it?
Yep.
Do some people remember it? Remake
do it.
Yeah.
Recast it. Get it in.
So is the new Halloween that's coming out next month also a remake or a reboot?
It takes place after the first Halloween.
The first
right?
Halloween, which means that it now retcons
H2O.
H2O, Resurrection, and Halloween 2.
Yeah.
Because Halloween 1 is her being like just a teen and then being attacked by Michael Myers. He falls out a window. And Halloween 2 is the movie where she goes to the hospital. He chases her to the hospital and then kills a bunch of people at the hospital. And that's where you find out that they're technically related. That Michael Myers is Jamie Lee Curtis's brother.
Half-brother?
That's retcon now for the new movie.
So now he's just a killer.
He's just a guy. And she's just been waiting for him to get out of an insane asylum since the first movie where she was attacked.
Wow.
All right.
What, didn't they already try and do that? You were saying the timeline. They pretended like a bunch of movies didn't happen and Jamie Lee was back.
Yeah.
But they're redoing that again
Yes.
where Jamie Lee is back.
Yes. So
Okay.
H2O is Jamie Lee Curtis is back in Halloween because
Yes.
it had been 20 years since the first Halloween.
And it
All
takes
right.
place on a cruise ship.
So
By
I've
the way, we only
only-
have a few months to make Halloween H4O because it has been 40 fucking years since the first Halloween.
Holy
Oh,
shit.
she looks
What
great.
an enduring franchise.
Yeah.
I think
She
that's
does look good.
insane.
Anyway, I picked these because they're really stupid. Like, it's funny to think that they tried to reboot it. Halloween H2O has some of the worst pacing of maybe any horror movie of all time.
So I've only seen the first one,
Okay.
and that was a long time ago.
So you're
What
good.
is the
You've seen the
synopsis
best.
of the Halloween movies? It's just a guy killing a lady? What is
Which
it?
timeline are we talking? 'Cause
Each of them, one by one. Let's go.
Well, basically,
wow.
the premise
Forever.
is there was this horrible murder on Halloween night. Some 6-year-old
A child.
6-year-old or 10-year-old or something murdered his sister and then was put in an insane asylum.
Okay.
And then, I don't know, 15 years later or something, he breaks out of the insane asylum and then goes on a killing spree again, killing
On
more
Hall-
sexy
There's
On
a South Park
Halloween.
episode
on,
about
on
that.
Halloween.
And
So
he
that's
wears
Halloween 1.
And he wears a William Shatner mask.
Jamie Lee Curtis happens to be one of the victims.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was, so they got a William Shatner, it's a Captain Kirk mask
Turned inside out.
that they turned it inside out was there because they had no budget.
So
Wait, really?
James,
Also, by the way, in Halloween H2O, there's a moment where the mask is CG'd on his face.
What? Why?
Insanity, maybe?
Tyra
for
Banks.
this?
yeah,
She
can
was
you,
right there.
Can you explain
Oh, this is the one
why
where they make
Tyra
it
and Busta
reality.
show up?
So this is Halloween
forgot it.
Resurrection, which is
Wow.
the sequel to H2O, where Busta Rhymes runs a company called Danger Media. No, sorry, Dangertainment.
Dangertainment.
Dangertainment, because there's a knife in the middle.
Okay.
And he has an amazing idea to do a reality show that takes place inside Michael Myers' childhood home.
Okay.
And
Halloween.
he casts a bunch of teenagers, 3 of which are all from the same college and know each other. One of which is a chef who only talks about food. Like, even as he's fighting Michael Myers, he's talking about the nutritional value of things, and he uses a specific kind of seasoning to get it in his eyes because he's a chef.
Okay.
To blind him?
All
To
right.
blind him. So the plan is we'll hook them all with cameras, rig the whole building with cameras, and then we'll do a reality like, oh, they'll get so scared and everything. Little do they know, Michael Myers is
Shows up.
living there.
Oh.
Wait. How did they?
Oh.
Wait, but Jamie Lee Curtis is in it? Or no?
Okay, so all right.
Spoilers.
Here's where
Well,
things
we're
get fun.
watching the trailer. I just saw her in the trailer, but you said she wasn't
Can
in
you
this
pull
one.
up? Can you pull up the box art for Halloween Resurrection?
So quick question.
Yeah.
Would you recommend watching these?
Yes.
Like, you can have bad, fun horror.
Because the runtime of H2O is 91 minutes, and the runtime of Resurrection is like 89 minutes. So you can be done in 3 hours. So...
Why are you laughing?
Look at the... Can you bring it up? Okay, so...
It's on DeviantArt, yes.
It's Jamie Lee Curtis, Tyra Banks, Busta Rhymes, and then 2 actors who are actually in the movie.
Wait, are the others not in the movie?
Tyra Banks, again, has, I think, no lines. She mutters something, which they probably could have given to an extra, and then dies off screen and dances to an expressive.
That's kind of
Katie Sackhoff.
Busta Rhymes
That doesn't get you much.
is the head of Dangertainment and does have a big role, like when he karate kicks Michael Myers out a window.
It's a big role.
And it's not ironic. It's like, he did it.
Okay. But what about Jamie Lee Curtis? Why is she on the box art?
Jamie Lee Curtis, so you have to go back to H2O. H2O ends. She only did it because she said, I'll do this movie, I'll come back and do this, but we got to kill him off. We'll kill him off and then end the franchise.
Okay.
That's it.
So she was like, get me out of this fucking hell.
She was like,
I will come back if you murder him finally.
She doesn't have to do these movies.
No, but I could understand it being a part of her career or whatever, and like, let's
her legacy, man.
So I want to end it. Let's end it right with this movie H2O,
Okay.
which introduces a 20-year-old Josh Hartnett, by the way. It's more
fine.
like Heartthrob.
I think
Anyway,
that's what I call him.
so at the end of H2O, spoiler, she has a very elaborate plan that gets Michael Myers, and then she cuts off his head. And it's like, boom. It's not he's shot. It's not like he's stabbed or anything like that.
Yeah, he got decapitated.
There's even a point earlier in the movie where she stabs him a bunch, and she goes, nope. And then she gets him into a situation, cuts off his head with an axe. Boom, it's over. At the beginning of Halloween Resurrection, they reveal that that's not what happened.
Oh.
That Michael Myers changed places with the security guard and put him in the place. And so Jamie Lee Curtis accidentally killed a security guard. Yeah, there's Busta Rhymes karate fighting Michael Myers.
There's some
and
good
winning.
ADR in this scene.
And
I mean, Friday the 13th does some dumb shit like that too.
yeah.
Well, they all do dumb shit.
And so now she's
Sure.
in an insane asylum. Apparently what happened behind the scenes is she was told that it would end, and then it was revealed that in her contract, she had been screwed, basically.
Scary.
Wait, in the movie or in real life?
In real life.
Oh, no.
In real life, they were like, nah, we're going to change it. And they actually, after they finished filming H2O, the day after, filmed that security guard scene,
No.
basically kind of to screw her. So they were like, you have to do it. And she was like, fine, I'll do it. But I'm only going to do this much. So the opening of Resurrection is like a really long cold open of Michael Myers going to an insane asylum where she is 3 years after the events of H2O, and then getting her and killing her.
Okay.
That's it. Like,
I wonder
it's
how much she got paid for that.
probably a good amount,
Yeah.
but still, it's
Million.
just terrible. Also,
She's like, all right, if you won't kill him, fucking kill me. I'm done.
Also, she has long hair and
But
no
then
makeup.
she was a security guard.
Yeah.
But now she's back because they're just retconning everything.
Yeah, well, all this is wiped, and she's back again, probably because there's actually talented people potentially making this one.
Oh, boy.
More than this.
Potentially.
More than this.
This just
Wow.
looks so goofy. Like,
is.
was it scary at all? Like, do they try?
No, there's not. There's
It's
a
just
great
one-liners and
There's a great
goofy
moment
shit.
in H2O where they were talking about jump scares and how false they are. There's a moment where a character is going through a kitchen, and then one of the other guys, like the other boys who's there, sneaks up behind her and then grabs her, like, boo! Kind of thing. Except the shot is of her, and you see him come out and do it, and then the movie still makes a loud noise, and she screams.
Annoys the shit out of me. Like the most recent Blair Witch had some like really good moments, but
Wait.
there's most of the jump scares are auditory.
Recent Blair Witch?
Yeah, there's like a
Holy fuck, they remade that
yeah.
one too.
It's not a remake. It's like a follow up. It's a
I
sequel.
was like, are we talking about Book of Shadows?
No,
That was-
it was like, I think it might have been last year, maybe the year before, and there are some good parts in it, but it has all of these just auditory jump scares. It's like a thing that's not really scary, but someone screaming at you in a microphone. It's like, yeah, I'm probably going to be spooked by that.
Yeah.
Can you explain this moment? Like, what
No,
was this trap?
I can't, because she was locked up. She was locked up the whole time. She wasn't able to escape until he broke down the door. So the fact that she had a trap rigged on the roof, which makes even less sense because her plan from this point, if they show the whole scene, she hangs him over the side of the building, and then she's like, I'm going to cut the rope and kill you. And it's like, really? A fall is supposed to kill him?
Yeah.
Later on, she's the one who falls, and it's maybe like the roof maybe as high as the ceiling in this building, and she falls into bushes. And I'm like, so if he had fallen, he would have been pretty fine.
Anyway, does he have any like supernatural abilities that make him super strong or anything? Did they try to explain that?
No.
Just
I don't know why. I think
unwell.
I mean, he's like magically powerful and strong.
Yeah.
But
But
as far as
not
I know, none of the main movies explain why he's magically strong.
Right.
He's just so crazy and loves killing so much that he can get shot and stabbed, I guess. I'm glad you guys picked the movies you picked, because I almost wanted to pick these movies to show why we're getting good stuff now, because this is about as bad as it gets. It's like this, and then Jason Does New York, which is honestly more of a comedy.
I kind of want to see
Freddy
that.
versus Jason was actually pretty funny.
Freddy versus Jason was okay. Yeah, it was pretty good. But these movies are just terrible. That's a security guard.
I see.
So she has to check to make sure it is him.
I mean,
But we don't even know what he looks like, so it doesn't
True,
matter.
true.
None of it makes sense. He also she's cutting rope, and he like holds his ears. And then later on when they get to the actual movie with the reality show, there's a character who screams so loud that it breaks a glass. And you're like, oh,
What's
she's
stopping
going to
him from
scream
moving
at the end of the
his
movie and save the day because they're screaming so loud that it's going to hurt his ears. Except that doesn't happen. The whole movie is things that don't happen. So then he grabs the
that was
knife.
really stupid though, because his hands were free. Why would she assume he wouldn't move them?
Everything about this movie is
That makes
stupid.
sense. Do they have any sexual tension?
The brother
Yes.
sister.
Yeah, wait for it. They're brother sister.
Right? Like, but they
Oh,
seem
wait.
like a little bit in love.
Wait for it.
Yeah, this looks.
Okay.
Didn't we establish they're not brother and sister?
Now they are not, but in
Yes.
this they were.
They were still.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is how this is.
Also, I noticed there.
Like, she
as
looks like
the
she's having an
movies-
orgasm.
What the fuck?
See, I keep wondering if it's like a Batman Joker situation. Oh no, she fell into
They
bushes.
need each other.
She
But
fell
look how
8 feet.
Look into bushes. That's how she was gonna kill him.
It was like a story and a half.
I know it's nothing.
That's.
Is that how she dies?
Everything is terrible about both of these movies, but they're really fun to watch.
But they're also adding more detail to his face for some reason. Like, I thought the point of the mask was that it was simple,
Yeah.
and then they were like, "What if we age lines?"
Give him eyebrows.
Yeah.
Why?
I was thinking the mask.
He's not
cheaper
Batman.
somehow.
It's just strange. The first movie was an accomplishment because of what it did with the low budget, and it sort of catapulted this genre
Well,
into a thing.
Well, how many movies are there? 10 now? Is that 10 movies?
Seven?
I think there's
More.
6,
I think.
Well, you have to
5,
also
6,
count the
and then
Saturday
2,
morning cartoon
9,
TV show.
10, 11.
No, you don't.
You're not
Is
sure if
this
it's
no, you
real or
don't.
not.
This might be 12.
Wait,
maybe.
really?
I think that's
Jesus,
really
the new
fucking
one might be
impressive.
12.
There are
There's
11?
Does that count the newest one?
I don't.
Probably not. It's not out yet.
I don't
Anyway.
fucking
Jesus.
care.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Resurrection, 9, 10, Rob Zombie. Yeah, 11.
If we were to look at like the history of horror films, how far back does it go? Like, what's the first horror film that really kicked things off? Like, because I know this was the same era
Dracula or
as maybe as Friday the
Universal?
13th, which is also
Nosferatu.
just
Yeah.
a dude stabbing people.
Oh, no, Jason's getting Jason.
And
What?
then
No, that's
when
Michael
did Nightmare
Myers.
on Elm Street
Oh,
come out?
Michael Myers.
That's a little
That's the
newer,
80s.
right?
Yeah,
That's still 80s.
I would say the current timeline that we're in right now is a product of the 80s.
Yeah.
But we are now sort of getting a resurgence of 70s horror. Most notably, a complete remake of Suspiria. But more of the slower kind of psychological horror, more European influenced, if you want to go down that path. But a new genre of horror has not really, I think, made its way over here since I think like South Korean or Japanese horror sort of made its way here.
Yeah, I mean, you could say Paranormal Activity counts as a different genre of horror.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
found footage.
I get,
Yeah.
that I would call that 2000s horror.
Yeah.
But
Because there's also that, like Unfriended, I think. It's like just movies centered around technology, effectively.
Yeah.
I guess that is a sort of genre. But the monster chasing people is still a thing.
Yeah.
And it was sort of it was made again made popular again by Scream. And then
Yeah.
that continued with I Know What You Did Last Summer and There's like 13,000 of those
Urban
movies.
legends.
Scary movie.
Yeah, and then there's some
And
that
then
are.
Cabin in the Woods just neatly wraps it all up.
Cabin in the Woods
I
is
love
like
that
that was a
movie.
nice little swan song. I
Kinda
thought, for-
was.
Yeah, for everything. But then you still get your Jeepers Creepers and other types of things that are still in the same vein, but different enough that people go, well, it's kind of its own thing. And they go, yeah, well, sure, he's a bug man, whatever. But then you still got your Candymans and your
Yeah.
Hollow Mans.
I mean,
and-
Jeepers Creepers is still a guy chasing people.
Yeah, it was directed by pedo, so let's forget that movie. It was me.
I think.
Oh, boy.
I think
He's a convicted pedo.
it's not
I
always.
did
the
not
case.
know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, good old powder. I think part of it is you can always find there's a certain movie that seems to be made because the people behind it believe that it's good. So the first Halloween was made with a low budget, but I think John Carpenter and the people involved believed that it was a good movie. Like, we can make a good movie, and we won't have any money, but we can make a good movie with this. And from there come all the people that make movies because they think it will be financially successful. And then
Yeah.
you get further and further from where you started until there's some sort of like, retcon or whatever, and then it goes back again.
You get the people who actually
Well, that's what happened with Saw, right? Like the first Saw movie is a very good movie on a very low budget, and then they got bad because they got profitable.
But now-
one
but-
every year for 5 years.
But then we take a 10-year break. Some kid who grew up watching Saw is going to go, I'm going to remake Saw and do what they did you're right. That's awesome. Let's do it. And let's make 20 more and then run into the ground
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
It's
but that's-
cyclical. It's
that's
like
the cycle of
technology.
it, right? I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, we talk about horror movies forever.
I will.
Yeah, but we could do this again. I hope you guys have a wonderful October and check out some of these movies. Maybe not the Halloween movies unless you want to laugh,
3 hours, you'll be done with both of them.
and you'll be all caught
I
up.
think I'm gonna do it.
You should. It's totally worth it. I think H2O's on Hulu. So
All right.
Everybody run to their Hulu.
Honey, are you home? Yeah. Cue up the Hulu.
All right, bye. See you next time.
See ya. Actually, in Man of Steel, the moment he, spoiler, I guess.
Took off his shirt.
Oh, man, that's so good. He was like, what, 6% body fat or something? I don't know. No, wait, no,
Bulky.
no.
That's why he's so cool.
Oh, man, you should read about his diet, what they did to him. Like, it's crazy.
They got the 300 physical trainer or whatever. I was
yeah.
watching behind the scenes stuff, and he was like, just to get the pump, he was like pushing his arms together.
The guy's